While I had originally planned to put this in a pinned comment, I ended up writing so much that it might as well be its own video. These are things that I was planning on having in the original review that got cut out either because I got too sick to record, I just forgot to mention it, or because they seemed a bit nitpicky. We'll still be going in the same order as the review, with story, gameplay, gripes and criticisms, and praises. No matter what's in this video, however, my final verdict from the original review doesn't change. And that's about it. Since I've already gone over the main story beats in the original review, I'll just be talking about a few things that bothered me, or that I need to clear up. First thing I would like to clarify about Lonnie Lowly is that my problem with him isn't that he talks too much. That's his character. But rather that because of the talking, we don't get properly introduced to the rest of the masks. We get enough time as it is with Lonnie Lowly, so I was hoping that we could have some more time with the other masks. Rather than have Lonnie Lowly tell me that Akano's a silent type, maybe have a cutscene where Crash and COCO are trying to get to know him, only to have Akano give simple answers to questions. Really, just anything to show that Lonnie Lowly isn't the only mask in the game. I mean, I mentioned it in the review, but Aku Aku's screen time pales in comparison to Lonnie Lowly's, and he's a main character. Also related to meeting the masks, I find it weird that masks from past cutscenes don't really show up in later cutscenes, or at least until the end of the game. I don't even think Lonnie Lowly mentions anyone else after you find them. This one is more of a nitpick, so it probably wouldn't have made it into the review anyway. Story-wise, what is the explanation for Aku Aku protecting Tana and Dingodile? I get maybe Tana, but Dingodile was believed to be a bad guy all the way up until they met on Oxide's ship. What exactly was the purpose of the Bermugula dimension? I get that Entropy had that space drift thing, or whatever it's called, but most of the dimension is just an Oxide cameo, and I don't even think the Entropy's boss battle even takes place on that ship. It has come to my attention that a lot of the confusions I have with the story are story beats that were cut out, such as explanations for why Kapunawa shows up out of nowhere, as well as Ika Ika. However, even if the original bosses came back, it still wouldn't explain why none of the bad guys seem to be interested in the masks. Despite the final boss showing a mask could be used against the Bandicoots, literally no one mentions them once. Cortex doesn't even realize he can use Kapunawa to go back in time until the final act of the game. But if Cortex didn't know the mask could be used for evil, why did he even have Akano? Why is Embryo working for Cortex? In Crash 2, Embryo was actively working against Cortex, and he didn't even show up in Crash 3. Throughout Tranquility Falls, he somewhat speaks to Crash and COCO in a friendly way, and even constantly brings up how much Cortex abused him. But in Tana's level, he's seen trying to kill Crash and COCO. So is he on their side or not? These are a couple of things that bothered me about the story. It seems that Crash 4 was still rushed in some way, so a lot of the time it feels like things are kind of just happening. Don't hate me for saying this. The Crash 4 story actually reminds me a lot of Crash Twinsanity. Just how there's a lot of story beats missing, and while there is some semblance of a story there, thinking about it for more than a second just adds more and more questions. Next up is gameplay. There's only a few mechanics I didn't mention, so this section is going to be short. This game has motion blur and camera shake, which you can toggle on or off in the options menu. When you press X to bounce higher off of a crate, there's a new sound and animation indicator for it. It's not something I outright wanted, but now that it's here, I wonder how this hasn't already been a thing, since in past Crash games you just kind of had to guess. There's a rope swinging mechanic, not too different from most rope swinging items in video games. You can slide up and down on them, and like most of the flying enemies, they have drop shadows. Triple spinning is a new mechanic used for time trials and the like. It's really satisfying to use, especially with the combined slide spin, which gives you even more speed. You unlock this ability when you beat the final boss for the first time. Colored gems do make a comeback, and save for the yellow gem, they're hidden behind puzzles. There are hints as to what you need to do though. They're hidden at some point in the level as these crude drawings, but one thing that stands out about them is that they each have a gem within the picture. Some people were finding drawings in other levels that they thought might be hinting towards something, but as I repeat, gem hints have gems in them. And lastly, while I do complain a lot about Polar's gameplay, I don't think it's a lost cause. Snurgle, or whatever that alien's called, is a lot easier to handle than Crash Landed. Playing Snurgle's level made me realize that Polar's gameplay, as a whole, isn't that bad. But the first level with his playstyle has a whole host of problems that make it seem worse than it actually is. One thing I would have liked them to do is either have more levels with Polar in them, or make entire levels where you play as Polar, similar to the Hog levels in Crash 1. I like Crash Landed's style of having it so that you play as Snurgle throughout the level, because it gave me more time to get used to him. Even the camera angle and the crate placements feel way more forgiving than the first level. After playing through Crash 4 a second time for my channel, I started noticing a lot of glaring issues, some of which even made it into the initial review. While I do like the idea of the inverted levels, a good lot of them are more annoying than fun to play. There are pretty good ones like the echolocation levels in the first two levels, the amazing color fill levels in Salty Wharf, and especially the 8-bit levels on Cortex Island. Some of the worst ones to me are the color book levels in Egapus, the old-timey filter in Added Speed in Mosquito Marsh, the slow underwater levels in Snacks, and while I do love the ink-wash style of Tranquility Falls, playing them after a while really hurt my eyes. Most of the other inverted levels do. But when you're trying to scan the screen for hidden boxes or hidden gems, it can be a bit much. Again, I would rather that instead of having every level having inverted versions, choose specific ones, or even make completely new levels. Also related to inverted levels, there's just way too many of them. At first, collecting gems and all that doesn't seem to be that much difficult. But once you start getting to the later levels, it can really start to drag on, especially since some of the filters can be hard to look at. For example, playing through the 11th dimension and collecting every gem just feels annoying. Not only do I have to deal with this painful filter, but I have to beat some of the hardest levels in the game, which means I'll probably be there for a long time. You could say that the purpose of the inverted levels is to help you get to know the levels. That's usually what I consider the relic races to be for. I've learned way more about a level from just trying to get to the end quickly than I've ever done walking through it with a painful filter burning through my eyes. During some of the side-scrolling areas, especially the flashback tapes, I've had the double jump not work. I thought that maybe had something to do with how close I was to the ground, but most of the time you can double jump pretty much as long as you have jumped off the ground. I can't count how many times I just wanted to jump off a crate and just double jumped, so it's noticeable when you can't for some reason. There are invisible walls of the wazoo in this game. Crash 4 is a very detailed game, so it's easy to jump into a random area and think you'll land on it, only to get rejected by an invisible wall. While trying to get the Platinum Relic in Insanity Peak, I tried to jump from these stairs straight to the side-scrolling area, and was shut down by another invisible wall. There's no indication that I can't just jump up here, so it was a little jarring for my first time around. I love the amazing detail in this game, but they really needed a way to differentiate between gameplay area and scenery. As I mentioned in the review, they like to hide crates in the scenery, and the only real difference between a gameplay crate and a scenery crate is the size, which is something that's hard to spot when you're running through levels. I hate how you can still move in a three-dimensional space while in side-scrolling areas. I get that Crash is seen as this 2D but also 3D sort of game, but literally none of the times was the 3D gameplay needed in a side-scrolling section, and is most of the reason why it's difficult to aim at anything as Cortex. I do not like the wall running mechanic. It's very sensitive and has been one of the main things keeping me from getting all the relics in this game. In some levels with Ika Ika, the ceiling can kill you. Not sure if it's a glitch, but Ika Ika's areas have the death zone stretched out to the ceiling area. Kapunawa's mechanics are actually related to another common glitch, nitro crates exploding and you not dying from them. Supposedly, in order to make Kapunawa's time-slowing mechanic work, they had to change the amount of time you have before you die. Pretty much if you jump at the right frame, you can jump off of a nitro crate. It's a glitch that's pretty much baked into the game, so I can't really see them fixing it in the future. But like Ika Ika's ceiling glitch, I just think it's worth noting. The end credits have no music in them. After the quick-fire jokes from the narrator, it's just quiet, like almost an hour or two of this. This game is the first I've ever played that actually makes good use of the double jump. Most game designers use it as an excuse to make platforms taller and gaps longer. In Crash 4, double jumping feels more like a tool than a gimmick. I love the idea of adding skins, and while Crash and COCO skins might be related to each other, they never look exactly the same, so you still get a sense of variety. And something I didn't know until my second playthrough, the balloon skins actually have unique animations for when you die, which is just another cute detail I adore. I love the dynamic music in this game. From the checkpoint jingle to the rail sliding music, to the way the music changes when utilizing any of the masks, and even down to the characters having level themes rather than level songs. It was a welcome surprise hearing Cortex's boss theme in his levels, and hearing Toxic Waste and Tano's theme. And even better how they changed depending on the style of the level, like how Dingodow's level in Egapis Dimension adds marimbas instead of the usual guitar, and Tana's first level has those accordions. All around, it's just great, and don't even get me started on the rail sliding. Blast to the Past is definitely my favorite. I love the puzzles in the bonus levels. Bonus levels being somewhat puzzling isn't really a new concept for the Crash Bandicoot series, but I found the puzzles in this game to not only be challenging, but also, like with most of the great things in this game, I found myself gaining more skills to use throughout the game. One thing that I wish they had, though, is a little more variety. Most, if not all of them, really just require you to get to the end, then back to the beginning, and then back to the end. Even after all these new things that have come to light from my second playthrough, the original score I had for this game still stands. As I've said before, this game has some low lows to it, and some pretty outstanding highs. What I do know is that, unlike some other games I've played, the problems I've had with this game don't get in the way of my casual playthroughs. 100%, even though it technically isn't 100%, is fine for me. Around the latter half of my playthrough of this game, my controller started dying out, so I couldn't really do any time trials. But I will say that in the somewhat distant future, there will be platinum time trials on this channel. Now, with all that said, thank you for watching.